Hey, so which is more deadly, V2 or V3? Now, a lot of us have been sort of feeling about our first games that V3 is much more deadly. But is that really true? Well, someone has done the math. Thank you, Tim. Let's go and see what it is that Tim has been calculating. He's been doing statistics here. So, which is more deadly? That is the main point here. Is version 2 or version 3? To begin with, you could say that one aspect, let's limit it to one aspect, and that is small arms fire. It feels like right now, where we're at in version 3, to me at least, it feels like small arms fire have got massively more deadly, that there is a lot more kills that we're seeing, but this can of course be tested. You can set up 10 regular riflemen shooting at a regular infantry target, and then combine different things of range, cover, if you're moving or not, or if the target has gone down, which makes up for what Tim has done here, 24 different combinations of these 4 factors. So the results of that is that in some respects, the average shooting in V3 is a little more deadly. Like, okay, take here. On average, in V2, you would get 1.6 casualties for 10 guys shooting, but you get 1.16 casualties in V3. So that's marginally more. But if we look at short range shooting, is actually less deadly right now, which is kind of weird, right? Because that's not the feeling I'm having at all. Most of the times it's actually equally deadly, right? V2 casualties 0.8, V2 casualties 0.8. So the range here is, look at this, short, soft cover, the unit that's shooting is stationary, and the unit that's being shot at is down. That actually produces the same amount of casualties on average. But it does change up. Some of them have become more likely, right? Hard cover now is much more likely. Still not a lot more likely, but much more likely than before. Also notice that this does not include point blank shooting, which now is a lot more deadly. So you can basically sit here and go over these. I'll just go over the takeaways that Tim has pointed out to me. Long range shooting is now a lot more deadly. So let's see this here. So long range shooting, because long range is no longer a thing, I always felt like that was more likely to be more deadly. But let's just take the first one here. Long range, no cover, the unit is stationary. How many casualties? 2.5 and 2.5. That evens out, right? But let's see where it does become a lot more deadly. For instance, down here, long range in scenario 23, long range soft cover, and the unit is not stationary, so it has moved. Now, in version 2, you were very unlikely to get casualties. 0.1%, but you would not percent. You would get 0.1 casualty. In V3, you're now likely to get half a casualty, right? So every second time you do this, you'll get a casualty. That is much more likely, right? Up here we have the scenario 20. So long range, soft cover. The unit is stationary, and the target unit is down. In version 2, that was very unlikely to happen, 0.1. But now it's 0.8. You're pretty likely to get at least one casualty here. And more so, you're much more likely to get pinned as well. So long range shooting is now way more deadly. Why? Well, in V2, the nigh impossible, the sevens, the sixes followed by sixes shots, right? These no longer occur, and that is what is driving up casualties. Now, in V2, that was most often when you were at long range that you were having to shoot on sixes followed by sixes, sevens. But now in V3, that no longer happens, so the casualties for that is fairly boosted, and that materially changes the outcome between the two versions for when you're likely to hit. And that is what I'm feeling. That is what I'm feeling in my games, that from turn 1 or 2, you already start losing models. That's that. That is why. Because the 9 possible shots have gone away. So, in all, shooting at long range is way more deadly. And I'll get back to what this means in a minute. And it's only marginally less deadly than shooting at short range, which in version 2 was massively different, right? Short range was dangerous, long range, you were fairly safe. That changes up the game massively, that you're now almost as deadly at long range as you are on short range. And you're even more deadly, by the way. So long range has gotten better, point blank has gotten way better. So there's now much less incentive to move to short range. And that is one of the points I've been harping on about. This is why I think that the design of V3 is bad in some ways, like game design. My pet peeve is that close quarters is now useless, more or less. I will try to make it work, just not yet, because I'm all about trying to win World Open War right now, and so I haven't had time to sit down and think about how to make close quarters work, how to maybe use my Gurkha still. As of is, I don't think for most of us there's any reason to ever go to close combat, and it's even worse because there's now less incentive to move up to short range, right? There's no reason to do it, which makes for an incentive to stay back into your own deployment zone and just shoot at the enemy, which makes for gunline armies, which is why I've been repeatedly saying we need a lot more terrain, we need an incentive to move up, because otherwise we're going to have a game that is static and that is not fun to play. So I know there's people who disagree with me and think, oh, well, the nerf to close combat is the best thing that ever happened. It's much more realistic. That may be. But from a game design perspective, it is a catastrophe. If there is something that could make me quit the game, it is that change. Because it's just not fun. And it's exasperated by how much more deadly shooting at long range now is. That problem is exacerbated by that. So, yeah. The game is now deadlier because you can cause material damage to your opponent at long range from turn 1, which is why also I think, which is a good change, by the way, I think that LMGs are now worth it. So yeah, small arms fire is more deadly in version 3. That is the conclusion, and it has a lot of implications into other aspects of the game, as I've talked about here. So we shall see how this all plays out over the coming months, whether or not my predictions about how this will change the game, what it will do to people's lists. I'm already seeing those lists, by the way. Like, I have a to-do list of almost 40 people by now that I need to go over their lists. And a lot of them are now sitting back, gun lines. I need a lot more range shooting. and maybe have one unit that can push. I am predicting that this will be boring games. I'm sorry, I'm not being very optimistic in this one, unless we do something about this. So, for me at least, my terrain tables at tournaments that I run are going to be way more cluttered, because I want people to move up. I don't want them to sit back in their deployment zones doing, I'll shoot for 6 turns. That's boring. So, right, that was it for me today. Sorry about the negativity. Just happened. Thank you so much, Tim, for doing that math for us. And I will see you in the next video. Cheers.